My name is Ashraf Elsayigh. I use he, him, his pronouns, and I'm one of the two writers and producers of this iteration of Memorial at the Rough Draft Festival. Memorial is a documentary theater play that is based on interviews with survivors and people who lost loved ones at the Christchurch mosque shooting on March 15, 2019. The play uses projections, movement, performances of ritual to tell the story of this group of immigrants who came into Christchurch and their life stories and what brought them to that moment. Memorial was conceived by Ariana Gale Stuckey, my co-writer and co-producer, who traveled to Christchurch just 3 months after the attack to interview people from the Muslim community and people from Christchurch. And I, at that point, had come on as a dramaturg and researcher, and after hearing the richness and the stories and how profoundly impactful and important these stories were, as the interviews came in, I came on as a full-fledged co-writer and collaborator. And yeah, that was where the inspiration came from. We started initially being interested in why the story of why and how immigrants were navigating this moment in Christchurch and what were different stakeholders in Christchurch interested in telling us at that moment. But as the story continued, it became very much about how people who had lost someone were overcoming that trauma and processing that trauma. It is a verbatim play, so every word in the play that is uttered out loud by an actor comes from the words of these interviews directly. And the interviews were conducted by my collaborator, Ariana. And while she was in Christchurch doing that work, I gathered a team of 30 collaborators and transcribers who volunteered their time to transcribe these stories. And from there, we came into a rehearsal room in August, just 5 months after the attack, with thousands of A4 papers and sheets everywhere. And we started to think about what were the things that everyone talked about, what were some of the differences, what were some of the similarities. And we started to think about to document the story or to tell the story that is about how this community and how each of these individuals was overcoming an insurmountable loss. What were moments that felt prescient, what were relevant themes, and the story really came from there. I mean, in the short term, we're just so excited to be developing this piece with the support and presenting at the LaGuardia Performing Arts Center and with the Rough Draft Festival. We're so lucky to have an incredible design team, and it's been a year and a half of COVID, and in that time, this piece is so physical. It has so many projection elements, lighting, sound, and we haven't really had the opportunity to experiment with that with live bodies in space. And so we just feel, we're on day 2 of rehearsal right now, and we feel so lucky to actually hear that and experience the movement and think about how it exists in three definitions. In the long term, we're really hoping that this play is performed internationally. We're hoping that this play eventually comes back to Christchurch and is seen by any community that has elements of xenophobia or that has experienced trauma, which after the last few years, we believe is everywhere. The pandemic gave us so much opportunity to really think about what were the most relevant arcs, what was really the story we were trying to tell. And obviously we had so much time to think about how projections and technology was going to be a part of that. And so, for example, 2 years ago, the piece included 7 actors, but all were in person and live on stage the whole time. And having the opportunity to create a film version of the piece and to create it in developmental settings online made us realize that 2 of these actors had the impact that we wanted them to have in the play best through projections. Our processes and how we work and how we collaborate were also entirely upended by the pandemic and the conversations with We See White American Theater and other key figures in the field that we're talking about compensation and how artists need to be better treated. And so having that time has given us the opportunity to really bring together a team and bring the resources to compensate our collaborators more equitably and think about better workplace settings. And that's been very exciting to implement now that we're back here.